Could you talk about how difficult that was, or how easy it was, perhaps, to put that together, and how that contravenes certainly the way that things are done in America? You've worked on American films as well, so you have some perspective there, I think.
The attack was tricky. It took us several years to pull this film. The difficulty actually is the subject matter, because I mean, I knew from the beginning, the second I was going to get involved in making a film that deals with the Middle East in Arabic and in Hebrew, we don't have a lot going for us, because it's just but you know, I had a great book and a great novels, and I was originally commissioned by an American company to do it, and I was actually very surprised when that American company called me in Beirut saying, we're interested to develop this film with you. And when I flew to New York to meet the president of this company, which is a very, very big company, by the way. I'm not allowed to mention the name because I had signed a confidentiality agreement. But when I sat with him, I reversed the question to him. I said, how come you, an American producer, want to do a film that has no American actor, no American side to the story, it's not in English, and it's about a very thorny subject that deals with the Israeli, I mean, it's not the main thing, but the context of the film is Israel and Palestine. He says, it's something that I'm holding at heart. I really care for the subject. And I was shocked, to tell you the truth. I've never anticipated to sign a contract with a big company fast as 1 week. I flew back to Beirut, started writing, and 9 months later, the film completely fell apart. They did not want to finance it anymore. As of today, I still don't know the reasons why they pulled out. But then the French company stepped in, and they said, we want to do the script, and they started looking for financing. At that time, a year and a half ago, the country of Qatar just came out with an idea. They wanted to establish contact with the Tribeca Film Festival and make a film foundation. And they have a lot of money. They put $1 billion to finance film from the Arab world. So we pitched them. They gave us good size of the money. I mean, the budget is very small, but they gave us about half of it. Egypt came in. They wanted to work with me. They gave us some money. And then we got a little bit of France and a little bit from Belgium. We went and we did the film. We shot it in Israel and Palestine. And just a few months ago, the film was in Telluride and in Toronto. The Qatari came in, they saw the film, they took it out after the screening. They took me and the French producer to the side, and he says how much it cost to remove our name from the film. Seriously. And we asked for a lot of money, actually. I know. So they paid us right away, and we went, and we had to go back to the lab and pull their name off. About a week later, the Egyptian producer, who put about 25% budget, she said, why in the film did you show what Palestinians do to Israeli children, but you did not show what Israeli do to Palestinian children? I said, that's not the story. They say, why are you showing so much the Israeli side? It went on a debate, which I was expecting. She says, I will not release the film unless you take my name off the film. So we went back and with that. So for you tomorrow, you're going to see the film. You will not see the two main financiers. Why is the question. I flew to Qatar after that, and I met with the president of the foundation. I said, can I ask you something? Out of principle, you guys are advertising all over the world with the Tribeca Film Festival that you want to help film from that region of the world. You want to be at the forefront. You have Al Jazeera and so forth. Why now are you pulling out? And he said, we have nothing against the film. It's just that Qatar is being heavily scrutinized at this time because we are involved in the Syrian debacle right now, in the Libyan thing. If we are seen that we have any kind of sympathy toward the Israeli, which your film could show that, we are going to be scrutinized a little bit more. I said, I understand your concern, but we're into movie making. We're not. You're taking a political decision. And he said, you're looking at the tree. We're looking at the forest. We cannot do this right now. I said, I don't mind you pulling your film out, but that goes against everything you've said. When you established and publicized all over the world that we're here to help film. I said, how about if I approach the Tribeca, your partners? Well, Tribeca did not want to get involved either because it's a political decision. we got away with crime. I mean, I managed to do this film. I'm very happy with it. But it just tells you how much the Middle East is a very sensitive subject, how much precarious it is, and you know, this is how it goes. This is how films from that part of the world have to go through. So.
Etienne, do you have any easier time as a producer and a writer?
You mean with
Well, putting films together as a producer, that sounds like
more simple.
Yeah.
Because the film's, you know, about the food, and so everybody likes to eat all over the world, and many people of the world French food. So no, but I understand what you've said also, because before that I produced another film, which was quite political also, was Of Gods and Men, and question of you know, relationship between you know, Europe and Middle East, quite a way, North Africa, and there was some question raised like that also, not in the financing, but regarding the treatment of the subject, etc. But for haute cuisine, no, it's quite completely different, and I think also regarding what was saying Daniel, that our strength also in France is to speak also very much about very local thing. When you are very local, sometimes you can reach international audience because you speak about your own specificities. And the film has not been very complicated to raise the fund, but that's, you know, one film is like that, the other one is different. So each film has a special case. So you can't say, you know, before to start the production of the film, what would be the difficulty about the film.
Now, with respect to haute cuisine, what I find interesting there, Weinstein picked the film up for distribution, and that's usually now in this very, very thinned out distribution environment, that sort of says, we think your film has real commercial American appeal, which is interesting because it's a subject that seems, you know, very, very French. And was there ever any intention in the making of the film thinking this has real international appeal? Because it's a very French story. It's something that's very uniquely cultural. But were you thinking internationally at the time?
We thought, when we interested with the subject with Christian Vincent, the director, we were really surprised in fact that in France there was not a lot of film talking about what is one of the specificity of France, the food. I mean, the best film who spoke about the French food is Ratatouille, La Grande Bouffe, an Italian director, Vatel, made by an American director, but in English. And there was not a lot of, you know, classic film about, you know, gastronomy, the pleasure of the food. So it was a real, you know, for us, not a surprise, but a quite well, you know, place to be and to be with the film. So we were a little bit conscious about that, the fact if it was very well done, what Christians do with the film, and with emotion, we thought about the Festin Babette, the Babette Festen,
Babette's Feast.
the Babette Feast, which is made also by the German, you know, director. So Danish, yeah, Danish. And so I'm not surprised at the end, you know. The thing about the Weinstein company is, in fact, Harry Weinstein told me that his mother is a great fan of French food.
Who was it?
And so he told me that also the film is very important for his mother.
Wonderful. For Philippe and for Lambert, I'm curious, why did it take this long for us to find out that Lambert and Fabrice Lucchini have such amazing screen chemistry? I feel like we've been robbed of one of the great screen teams of all time up until now. It feels almost like you know, The Odd Couple. It feels there's just an extraordinary chemistry there. Could you talk? It feels like a great American comedy team. And there's a wonderful dynamism in the film. For those who haven't seen it, please see it. Could you talk a little bit about the extent to it? Because I could also say, well, it feels a little bit like Des Voitures and Thierry Chat, but there's a great French comedy team there. Could you talk, relative to the subject here, just how much the film's sensibilities and the characters are influenced by perhaps an American sensibility, a French sensibility, or something in between?
Well, for a long time, my major influence was American cinema. I grew up watching film by Hitchcock and Billy Wilder and all the great masters, and more closely like Sidney Lumet or, of course, Coppola and Scorsese. And you may notice that among all these names, maybe half of them are European. And of course, American cinema is built with European characters and sensibility. And it took me a while to admit that I was French, and I couldn't make American films, and that I should go back in my tree. There's a word by Jean Cocteau saying that an artist is like a bird who's got to sing in his l'arbre généalogique. I don't know how you would genealogic tree, and I felt this feeling very strongly. And I think my two last films, Women on Sixth Floor and Cycling with Molière, really had their roots in French sensibility, not only because I use Molière and of course the reference of theatre, but also because I think the tone of the film is very French. But in a way, my film is also a buddy movie, like 48 Hours, like the contrary, the mixing of two characters, wonderfully well played by Lambert here and Fabrice Lucchini. And in a way, of course, American cinema is always there, floating in the mist of the film.
I'd like to say that French actors, and I think actors all over the world, are influenced by American actors and by especially within the field of comedy. So if you see a couple on the screen that works, if it works, like you say it did in Cycling with Molière, I think unconsciously we absorb something that we consume in American films on television. So it can be positive, so it gives us certain acting references which are, I think, good, and they really directly come from America, I think, but sometimes it's bad. So you have entire generations of French actors that are influenced by TV acting, cliché, mimicking expressions that you see in commercials, that you see, I mean, you see, it's very clear, for instance, with young people, young actors, they actually enact something which is not part of our culture, which is completely absorbed from American culture. So I find that really disturbing. However, I, as a young actor, was only obsessed by American films. I wanted to become an American actor. My idols were American. I would only see American films. And I complain now as a French actor that young people, well, they don't go to see films anyway in cinemas anymore. That's one thing. They just watch their computer. But anyway, they used to go and see only American films. And as an adult, as an actor, as a professional actor, I complain about that because I was involved in French films and I wanted them to see French films. Whereas as an adolescent, I used to go and see American films. I used to see catastrophe films. I used to see, you know, big catastrophe films and also films with political films. So there is an incredible influence, which is both fantastically positive and at the same time can be a little destructive in the way generations of actors act on screen now.
Now, and your first film was Julia, if I'm not mistaken.
My first day on a film set was in front of Jane Fonda, yes, directed by Fred Zinnemann.
Which was also Meryl Streep's first film.
It was indeed,
yeah.
It was indeed.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Jane Fonda turned to me and she knew that it was my first day on a film set ever, and she wished me luck. And I thought, my God, Jane Fonda is wishing me luck, you know, this is incredible. So I just held on to it, you know, and and it didn't work.
Well, with that, Lou, if we could pass to the next generation of actors, if you could talk just a little bit about what it's like being an actor right now, because you've made 5 films, and 2 of them are here this year at COLCOA. That's a pretty great way to begin a career. Talk about your influences vis-a-vis French films, American films, what the landscape of film is right now as far as it inspires you.
Mais je pense qu'au final, les générations d'acteurs n'ont pas tellement changé.
I think that at the end of the day, the generation of actors is not that different, my generation, from the one of Monsieur Lambert.
Parce que, je vais parler en mon nom, mais les comédiens de ma génération aussi, on est très inspirés par les acteurs américains, par les films américains, par leur sens du rythme, par tout ce qui... les voir comment ils créent un personnage, tout ça, c'est quelque chose...
So it is the same way for my generation. We are extremely influenced by American actors, their sense of rhythm, and we are completely enamored from American cinema as well. And I speak for myself, but I think it's the same for other French actors.
Mais bon, après, contrairement alors, je pense pas devenir forcément une actrice américaine un jour.
But I don't think I'm going to become an American actress one day.
On verra bien, mais c'est une source d'inspiration, comme tous les cinémas après.
We shall see, but it's definitely a source of inspiration, but as our other film as well, from other places.
Jean-Pierre, a question with respect to your film, which is so interesting to me on so many levels, because it's so French, it's based on a Victor Hugo novel, but a novel that has only been done previously by a German director in the silent era, and yet it's a film that is considered widely to be the inspiration for the greatest villain in American comic book history, the Joker. That is a fascinating cross-cultural axis that you're dealing with. So talk about how you got into the position, have the courage to wrestle this material into a film.
Sorry, it's difficult for me to speak English. I speak French. Faire L'Homme qui rit est très lié à mon adolescence et à mon amour du cinéma américain que j'avais à ce moment-là.
So to do The Man Who Laughs is really related to my years as a teenager and my influence of American cinema.
Quand j'avais 15 ans, j'étais très complexé, encore maintenant, mais quand même par mes 2 maîtres.
So when I was 15, I had a lot of complexes, and still today.
Et je lisais, et je n'aimais que les histoires de monstres, en fait, auxquelles je m'identifiais.
And I read a lot that I really identified mostly monster stories.
Et tout ce que j'aimais aussi, c'est comme j'étais mal dans la vie, c'est au cinéma que j'ai trouvé un abri, il n'y a qu'au cinéma que j'étais bien, et j'aimais tout particulièrement ce cinéma de studio et ce cinéma fantastique américain qui vous faisait entrer dans un univers qui faisait à la fois un peu peur et qui vous protégeait.
So I was completely fascinated by the world of cinema and by this kind of world that I think I felt protected in. Tu as dit autre chose que j'ai oublié.
Protégé, ça faisait un peu peur, j'aimais les films qui faisaient un peu peur et qui en même temps nous protégeaient.
I loved movies that scared me, but at the same time I felt protected.
Et dans L'Homme qui rit, c'est ce que j'ai essayé de retrouver, ce sentiment adolescent d'un cinéma qui est de studio et qui à la fois fait un peu peur et qui en même temps nous protège.
So, and in The Man Who Laughs, I try to find the same feelings as an adolescent and of something that is scary, but at the same time protects me.
Mais l'histoire de ce roman de Victor Hugo est très liée en effet au cinéma et à l'art américain.
Yeah, the story of Victor Hugo, The Man Who Laughs, is indeed very much connected to American movies.
Il l'a écrit en 1869 alors qu'il était en exil à Guernesey.
So he wrote it in
1869.
69, where he was he was exiled in the Isle of Guernsey because I think he was speaking against the French government at the time.
Il s'était opposé à Napoléon III, notamment sur la question de la peine de mort.
So he was also against death
death penalty, and he was also opposed to Napoleon III, so that's why he went into exile.
Et quand le roman est sorti en 1871, il a été très mal accueilli par la critique et n'a eu aucun succès public en France.
So when it came out in 1871, it was very badly received and had absolutely no success in France whatsoever.
Comme mon film.
Like his movie.
Mais après, il a eu une influence incroyable donc, sur le cinéma américain, puisque la première adaptation est un film magnifique d'un réalisateur allemand, Paul Leni, en 1928 à Hollywood.
So, but it had an incredible influence on American movies, and the first, and on movies in general, the first movie was by German director Paul Leni, and it was in 1928, right?
1928. Et Paul Leni en a beaucoup souffert, parce qu'en revanche, on ne l'a pas laissé faire la fin du roman, qui est une fin tragique. À la Roméo et Juliette, on lui a imposé un happy end.
So he was very unhappy because he was supposed to do a happy ending instead of the real story, like in the book, which is not as happy.
Et ensuite, les créateurs de Batman, Bob Kane, ont inventé le Joker en s'inspirant et du film et de L'Homme qui rit de Victor Hugo.
Yeah, so the people, the Batman creators were inspired by Victor Hugo, the man who laughs, when they did the Joker.
Et on le retrouve ensuite dans James Ellroy, dans Le Dahlia Noir.
A Black Dahlia as well. James Ellroy.
Et des cinéastes que j'admire, et comme Tim Burton a toujours dit qu'il aimait beaucoup L'Homme qui rit et avait voulu l'adapter.
So Tim Burton also loved that book, The Man Who Loves, and actually wanted to make an adaptation, make a movie out of it.
Et il doit se demander qui est cet inconnu français qui l'a fait.
He's wondering who is this unknown director in France who made this movie that I wanted to do.
I'd like to go straight down the panel if I could, and just really quickly, I'd like for each of you to talk about, I'd like for the filmmakers to talk about what made you want to make the film or to be involved in the film itself, what the precipitating idea was, and to what degree you feel like you were able to realize your vision given all of the constraints that you face as filmmakers in an international marketplace. If we could start with you.
Wait, you meant
Just
what made us want to make that movie, or in general?
This movie, the movie in particular here, that's in COLCOA this year, that in your case, The Attack, that what was the inciting inspiration, the urge, what drove you to do it, and are you, obviously I'm not going to say, are you dissatisfied with the result, but given the constraints of the marketplace, do you feel like the environment has allowed you to fully realize the film that you originally wanted to make?
I had a great book.
Okay.
It's the author is a French author by the name of Yasmina Khadra, and he, just to give you a little bit very quick, Yasmina Khadra is a very established novelist, but he was a high colonel in the Algerian army, and he was working for like one of the most secretive part of the army. He was service de renseignement, how do you say? Secret service. He was in the secret service, and his job was to, that's only 20 years ago, his job was to track Islamists and put them through grilling interrogation tests. So when you read the book, the guy knows what he's talking about, and these always remain my favorite part of the book is the interrogation scenes, and they come from really an innate experience this guy had. When this American production contacted me and they sent me the book, I was very reluctant, as I said. Did not want to deal anything with the Middle East. It was a depressing time, 4 or 5 years ago. We had enough. I want to go back to the States, actually, because this is where I lived half of my life, right in the city. And then, the agent said, read this book. They want you, they're interested. I said, I'm not sure. And she said, just read it. I took the book, and I was living in Beirut, sat down at a coffee shop, and I really was so impressed with the book. It has all the dramatic elements for a screenplay. It was a bit of a challenge to do it because it was written in the first person. And we asked, me and the screenwriter, do we want to put a voiceover in order for us to get inside the protagonist's head? But then we find out that there was other ways we could do to avoid not that I'm against the voiceover, I like voiceovers, but we felt maybe we got to give it a chance to try to do that without voiceover. So we went and we did this film. And we knew from the beginning that it's going to be a hard sell. But, you don't think only about the marketing. You don't think, should I do a film that sells or not? But I can tell you, all modesty, I've done 2 films before, done in foreign languages, and I've always gotten US distribution. Sony Classics distributed my other films, so I knew that we probably stand a good chance to have this film released, and it was actually now Focus Features and COLCOA are distributing it. Am I happy with it? I am very happy with the film because we took it to a different direction. When the author, Yasmina Kadrai, invited him to come a few months ago to see the film, I knew he was going to be dismayed because I completely changed. I changed his ending, and we screened it. I was just a bit nervous because he's a great author, a very respectable guy, and he trusted us to the book. He didn't get involved in the writing. He didn't have a first or last look. Just take it, and when somebody trusts you, you want to be able to reciprocate this. So he saw the film, and then we went out. He said, "Can you roll me a cigarette?" I knew I was in trouble when he says, "Can you roll me a cigarette?" So he looked at it, he says, "Why did you change my ending?" And that went on for a while, and I didn't need to discuss it because he had a great ending in the book, but we couldn't do it in the film because the film has to take its own path. And now he's very fine with it, so I'm happy with the way it turned out at the end. Okay.
What was the question?
What precipitated wanting to make the film, and do you feel as if the constraints of the international marketplace right now, if that allowed you to fully realize the film you originally saw, or did it become something else along the way? Did it kind of take on a life of its own because of all of the hurdles?
I call the translator for that. I never think about the market when I make a film. I just think about my idea, what I want to do, what is necessary for me. And I think that if it's necessary for me, it can be necessary for many people. So all the shot I do in a film, it's I never think about the market. It's only my dream, which is my goal.
And given the constraints, the way that filmmakers have to deal internationally now, I mean, this is sort of what we talk about with financing. You know, American films very often they'll have a giant pile of money thrown at them that studios can compile even from other sources, whereas, as in many of these cases, you have to go and kind of dig up financing and attach talent from certain countries. Did that force you to make any compromises, or did it give you any kind of magical accidents that wound up benefiting in the end? How was that process?
To be honest, I make no compromise at all. So it doesn't mean I don't think about the public, but because all the time I think about that. I want to create emotion. So all the time when I write the script, I ask to myself, what is the best way for creating strong emotion? And it's very important for me because it is a popular art for me. It's what I think. So I always think about that, about you. I know it's much more easy to make a film with a movie star. So in my film, I do a very famous actor, but I have low budget. Maybe it depends on it is because of the subject for the last film. I think it was, I did 5 films, and all the time it was difficult to find the money. And it's not big budget, but at the end, I know that at the beginning, the market doesn't want my film. And after, when the film is finished, the market wants my film, and we had, with quite many, 3 of my 5 films, it's a great success in France. So I have to follow my way, and they will follow me after.
Well said. I think we got pretty much the story on The Man Who Laughs. Essentially, I mean, do you feel like the film that resulted, was in any way shaped by those financial factors, by distribution factors? Did that wind up forcing you to make decisions you might otherwise not have had to make?
Non. L'homme qui rit, c'est particulier parce que c'était un peu le rêve de ma vie. Hein. J'ai pensé à faire ce film depuis que je l'ai lu, donc dans mon
It's a
adolescence.
dream of mine, you know, I dream of making this movie since I'm really, really young, so it's like a special case.
Ça a été très long à faire, très long de trouver un producteur qui ait le courage et l'envie de se lancer dans ce projet.
So it was very long, of course, to make and also to find a producer who had the strength and the courage to throw himself into that kind of project.
Mais je n'ai jamais lâché, et je crois que c'est ce que nous faisons tous, hein, c'est notre travail, hein, sur ce désir-là, quoi, de le tourner par exemple intégralement en studio, comme ces films fantastiques américains ou les contrebandiers de Moonfleet que j'aimais tant. Je n'ai jamais transigé avec ça.
I never gave up. And I'm really going to have a hard time translating what he said after.
Je sais plus.
And I really want to achieve my dream of doing it in the American style or on studio.
Voilà.
Parce que beaucoup de gens, bien sûr, me disaient ce serait tout de même plus simple de le tourner en décor naturel, dans des vrais châteaux. Et moi, voilà, c'était l'idée d'un film intégralement en studio et sur la féerie et sur la théâtralité.
So yeah, I wanted to do it like in a studio instead of, like, a lot of people say, why don't you do it like, you know, in houses and farms and a real castle and stuff. And he said, no, I want to do it in a studio because there's an element of magic in it.
Etienne, thoughts?
Yeah, for me, it was important to get involved of gods and men in a more light subject, and in fact, it was also the meetings of people. I mean, it's very important when you proceed into movie making that you met some people who inspired you. And in this film, the base, because it's based on a true story, the meeting with Daniel Delpeux, who was the cook, his cook for the President de la République, and also the meeting with Christian Vincent, who is the director, which I loved the film before, and also because he's a great cooker, he likes and loves to cook, we decided to make the film. So it was really to have something, about pleasure, about that's also, life is also dance, so it's important to give that, and when you make some film, I think it's important to give some pleasure and to receive it back. So I think it's quite the same when somebody's cooking. So it's for this film it was that. Next film it will be another thing.
With my film Cycling with Molière, I wanted to pay my tribute to the actors and my love for the actors. It's not because Lambert is here. Sometimes I'm very irritated by actors at the same time, because they make you pay the desire and the love you have for them. And no, you didn't, that's right. And of course, the wedding of theatre and cinema is like an impossible wedding, because when theatre comes along, it destroys the cinema illusion. And in a strange way, I think I managed to combine the two, having two actors rehearsing a single scene of Molière. And it was fun to get rid of the plot. Because when you make a film, suddenly you have to take care about the plot and the third act and all these, threads that you have to follow. I'd rather talk about a story and a story of two human beings being faced together, and that's Lambert in the film. And ultimately it was pretty well received in France.
I'd like to skip to Danielle, and then I have some final questions for our two actors.
Oh, well, I'm not ready. Well, I guess I was a screenwriter for a large part of my life before I started directing films, and I was always working, of course, for a director and trying to melt into his world instead of mine, and bringing him as much as I could for his film. And so being a screenwriter is a wonderful
work which I did all my life, and I love it more than anything. And it gave me the opportunity to work with directors that had such different ways of filming and different and such different films, comic films, big comic films with my father, who directed some of the most I suppose the most popular films in France ever, and they were really truly just simply very comic films. Then comedy, which is another kind of film, of course, and always make a difference between comic films and comedies, or tragedies like for Queen Margot or other films that I did. So at one point when I started suddenly thinking, well, maybe I'll make a film myself, and what would it be? The answer was, I'd like to mix both. And this is what I keep on trying to do, which is that I try to imagine subjects where I can speak about death, hospitals, lies, betrayal, Alzheimer's, all these, religion, misunderstanding, judgment, and tolerance, all these things. But I like to make comedies, so I try to bring into my comedies all these ingredients, and hoping people will laugh, and yet come out of the movie having heard a little music that goes a little bit further than just that. So again, this time, that's what I tried to do, and it came really from the fact, as one of you was saying earlier, that you actually should always speak about your own village. It happens that my own village is Saint-Tropez, where the families had a house for a long, long time. And it's true that village is very beautiful, very quiet, becomes completely insane for a couple of months every year, and has such different ways of actually of being lived in. And I thought it was a wonderful metaphor for a family who has these two brothers who are a way of describing the film. There are many characters in the film, so you can actually start telling the story of each of them. But these two brothers, I thought was a good idea to have one of them playing in a classical concert and the other one on a boat with pretty horrible music. And so it started from there, and my ideas are always very small at the beginning, and then after that there's a lot of work on the screenplay to try and carry all these subjects that I talked about before. So this is how it started, and this is how this film happened.
Lambert, I don't know how you have managed to not age since 1985 when I first saw you in Rendezvous, but it's extraordinary. And specific to the two films that we have here this year, one of which you play yourself, they both have something in common. They both have a theatrical element to them, both Molière and the René film. You're playing an actor in both of them. One of them, you are the actor yourself. But your father ran the National Theatre in Paris, and I assume that the theatre runs very deeply in your veins. And is there something that you connect to? Because this seems to bring the theatre back in touch with the film. And even though Philippe said it's kind of an awkward marriage, somehow you play both of those parts with the same level of conviction and the same level of passion, yet they're completely different. Could you talk just for a moment about that?
Someone in London asked me when we presented the film whether it was difficult to mix theatre with cinema, whether it implied a different sort of acting, and I don't think it does, really. I mean, I think that acting is the same on, I mean, it really, it's not a stylistic difference for me. I have to say that theatre was so familiar in my upbringing, because I was 4 when I went to see plays by Bertolt Brecht and Corneille, and and I was laughing with the audience to be cool, because I wanted to be part of the adults, so I was watching these incredibly difficult plays. But I fell in love with the notion of acting through cinema. So cinema was always my obsession. And I listened to my father's advice, which was that actors, even screen actors, had to get a good stage training. And so therefore I became a stage actor, and I spent a lot of my energy doing theater, but cinema was always my great, great passion. It is weird that I am presenting two films that involve a play. One of them I actually performed on stage, Eurydice, which was presented in the Alain René film. I actually played for 6 months with the actress Sophie Marceau. So it's not a technical difficulty. I didn't think that it was a technical difficulty. There's just one thing that I wanted to add, which has nothing to do with the subject of theater, but it has something to do with the notion of market, and as far as French actors are concerned. We live a paradox, I find, that a lot of films are being made in France, it's true, and we are very lucky that we have an industry that is still so alive. And at the same time, I feel a little sad sometimes that only a very small percentage of our films get distribution outside of France. I mean, yes, we are very much supported, including by a state agency, Unifrance, which helps the promotion of French films. However, the percentage of French films being distributed outside in the rest of the world is very small. So I envy American actors who are in vehicles that actually spread throughout the world and can be seen. Sometimes our efforts remain a little too closed in within France. And it's a strange paradox, because at the same time some French films have been incredibly universal, but it's a very, very small percentage. So I just wanted to say this, that the world ignores sort of 95% of our work. That's the trouble. That's what I feel.
It's a valid point, and I think part of it is that we've had a crisis of distribution over the last about 8 or 9 years. A lot of the companies that used to routinely acquire and distribute French language films rather widely with very substantial marketing budgets in the United States, a lot of those countries went away. A lot of those companies went away, and it's difficult right now for those films to get the same exposure. A film like The Untouchables would have made 5, 6, 7, 8 times as much as it did